Chapter 6. Welcome to Miami, Mr. President.
The scene and setting at Bayfront Park are very accurate, right down to the uninspiring speech the president-elect gave from his convertible limo. As is my practice, I looked not just at accounts and books, but went to the original newspapers, both Miami and Chicago, where FDR's appearance and the shooting of Mayor Cermak were extensively covered. I could even track certain inaccuracies that crept into an early nonfiction book on the subject that was picked up by subsequent nonfiction accounts. I've mentioned famous mystery writer Mickey Spillane, who was a friend and mentor of mine. Shortly after we met for the first time in 1982, I showed Mickey the unpublished manuscript of True Detective, which my agent had turned down. Mickey loved it. I fired my agent, by the way, and gave me a blurb for the cover, and later would often single out the Bayfront Park assassination sequence as the best thing I ever wrote. Whether Mickey was right or not, I can say with confidence that the research for that particular scene was extensive, to say the least. I knew the novel revolved around that event and made sure I was ready before taking a swing at it. To me, the Bayfront Park setting was as important as the shooting itself. The enthusiastic crowd in this idyllic Florida landscape, from the swirling seagulls to the vast amphitheater, was, after all the Chicago stuff, a hugely important change of pace. Mayor Cermak certainly had concerns about mob ramifications after the Nitty shooting by the two Harrys. He did hire non-official security to supplant the Chicago cops who'd accompanied him to Miami, and the Secret Service was on hand for obvious reasons. But it's true that the Secret Service wasn't there to protect Anton Cermak. Their whole focus was, understandably, on the president-elect. The nameless blonde assassin is a fictional character in the sense that I used the same outfit hitman involved in the Jake Lingle case for the backup man at the Cermak hit, and later had him try to kill a private eye named Nate Heller, who after all is a fictional character. The concept behind True Detective and the 18 Heller novels that followed was to have my protagonist operate within history, in particular an accurately portrayed history. I almost always substitute Heller for some real person, like the cop the two Harrys pulled in at the last minute to back them up on the Nitty hit. I want Heller to be an eyewitness, a private eyewitness, to these famous people and events, the mouse in the corner, so to speak, although a mouse armed with a 9mm handgun. My job is to recreate the reality. Even the Secret Service agent Heller deals with is real, his actual name used, but also to have a mystery story element woven in, something Heller, like any good fictional detective, has to solve. Also, when I began thinking about and then actually writing True Detective, our country was caught up in a wave of conspiracies and conspiracy theories that showed a change of thinking in America, a loss of innocence, a rise in skepticism. The JFK assassination was already the subject of books doubting the official take on the murder. To a slightly lesser degree, the same was also true of RFK's assassination, which I would eventually write about in Too Many Bullets, the most recent Heller novel. Add to this stew the Watergate scandal, and conspiracy was very much in the air. The Nate Heller books often, maybe principally, examined the possibilities these conspiracy theories represented. Here's the thing. Conspiracy theories have gotten a bad rap in recent years. Political nonsense has come in on the far right and the far left fringes. But conspiracy is real. It's a crime on the books. Not all of these theories hold water, of course, yet some do. And one of the functions of the Heller novels is to explore the theories that are not of the tinfoil hat variety, that have some validity. The extensive research I refer to in regard to the novels is the source of the information I'm passing along here. I credit these sources in an afterword to each of the Heller novels, True Detective, The Basis of True Noir included. He did indeed. It's hard to imagine just how famous and powerful Walter Winchell was at this time. This is still the early days of radio, and Winchell was a superstar. He could get in anywhere. Heller, as a Cermak bodyguard who'd been at the scene and in the thick of the shooting's aftermath, would have been a natural for Winchell to latch onto, and for Nate to latch onto him. The circumstances of Zangar's immediate incarceration at the Dade County Courthouse are given correctly. That he was naked for a time is true, and everything he says to Winchell, with the minimum of tightening and editing, is what was reported by the newspaperman in the national news. By the late 1950s, Walter Winchell was, if not washed up, a popular culture relic. His rat-a-tat-tat style on the radio and in his syndicated column, straight out of Hecht and MacArthur's front page, as old hat as Winchell's own trademark fedora. Winchell was saved from oblivion when Desi Arnaz hired him to narrate the two-part TV movie The Untouchables that became the hugely popular Robert Stack TV series. The idea was for Winchell to lend the TV version of The Untouchables some historical and nostalgic credibility. The two-part movie, based on the Eliot Ness Oscar Fraley book, had been relatively accurate. But the series pitted Ness against famous gangsters and outlaws like Dutch Schultz and the Ma Barker gang, who Ness had nothing to do with, and depicted the cases with little regard for actual history. One of these episodes, The Unhired Assassin, made a hero out of Cermak, depicted as having angered the outfit by turning down a bribe, not trying to have Frank Nitti killed. This episode, like all the Untouchables episodes, was of course narrated by Walter Winchell as if he were reporting just the facts. Well, my private eye mouse has to find his way into the corner. The depiction of the hospital and the crying nurses and the amount of law enforcement present and so on is accurate. So is the scene between FDR and Cermak, which was witnessed by a number of people. And Cermak did shamelessly try to parlay the shooting into political hay for himself in Chicago. It's also true that Cermak's existing stomach ailment, obviously exacerbated by his wounds, was a major factor in his death.